When you walk into this museum, your first impression is like, oh my gosh.
John Parham was one of those collectors that understood the passion of buying a motorcycle.
This auction is going to be a very, very rare opportunity to acquire some first-class motorcycles and all the memorabilia that goes with.
John Parham was a very quiet man. Most people would consider him to be more of a thinker than a sayer. John started loving motorcycles at a very early age. Started off owning smaller motorcycles, and then he started building some bikes, and then he started owning more and loving the history of the motorcycling.
John Parham built a aftermarket motorcycle parts business, parts and accessories, J&P Cycles. I mean, it became a very big deal. It was quite an accomplishment for someone to build a business of that size.
In our early years, we did a lot of swap meets. That's how we kind of started off. We did probably 50 swap meets a year, and then we started promoting them. And we were one of the biggest promoters in the world. And we had to stop promoting because J&P Cycles was growing so much.
As time went on, he decided, I want to put my dreams somewhere. He began his museum in town, right in Anamosa, this little museum. But then he moved it to this.
The National Motorcycle Museum is the leading vintage motorcycle and motorcycle artifacts museum in North America.
The National Motorcycle Museum really was one of my dad's lifelong dreams, to show his collection. And I think it was a way for him to show people the history of motorcycling.
It's a cornucopia of everything two-wheeled. Every country is represented, and every brand, nearly every model. It's deep.
There is everything from little mini bikes to very expensive Merkles to almost every year of the early teens of the Harley-Davidson, Vincents, BMWs, Triumphs.
You have like the Indy and the Flying Merkel, the Thor, Celsior Henderson. There's even a Sears Roebuck bike that's in this building that they used to sell out of a catalog, right?
He's got a Curtis motorcycle in here that I don't think one's ever been offered in public auction ever, and it's a twin to boot. There's a SS100 Brough Superior right behind it that'll also be in the auction.
Some of the displays in this museum are very unique, right? There's a 200 foot of a board track that was literally built in the building.
There's some real board track racers on there, absolutely, and those are hard to come by. You don't see genuine board track racers from that era.
We did a hill climb section, so they built a hill climb area, made it look like the rocks and everything.
He was smart enough to know that people don't want to just see one certain thing, so he'd buy Hondas, Kawasaki's.
He wanted to have a motorcycle where people could come in and say, I rode that when I was such and such age. That was my first bike. He wanted all aspects of all the motorcycle world.
Anytime you talk about motorcycles, you can't get away from Hollywood. When you see Captain America motorcycle from the movie Easy Rider, I mean, it's instantly captures you because it's so iconic, you know, whether it's a replica or not. When you see a motorcycle that belonged to Steve McQueen, you know, I mean, it speaks to a lot of people. He was the king of cool.
He loved memorabilia too, and so he loved collecting toys and posters and all the stuff that went along with the motorcycling world. He had a huge passion for it.
Some of the great pieces are the early advertising pieces that over 80 or 90 years, they're artwork now.
Then he kind of got into the bronzes, and it was just unique art because it's beautiful, beautifully made with, different artists.
I knew John was sincere and loved my work always. I remember him saying something about the bronzes like, the bronzes meant something because I could bring those home, or I could buy those and Jill was excited that I got another sculpture.
When this collection is auctioned off, it's going to be on site here. We will have an auction arena set up outside. We're going to leave all the motorcycles and all the memorabilia in the museum as it's displayed.
It allows people to actually walk around and see what it was together. I would say a decent portion of them have never been here, right? And while they're gonna come for the auction, they're still gonna get to experience what it was as a group.
So many of these items anymore, toys, motorcycles, cars, collectibles, signs are being sold on the internet. That gives you a lot more access, but the internet takes out the greatest part of the hobby, the camaraderie.
It'll be emotional for me to see some of these go out the door, but in my heart, I'm 100% good with what's happening. He's always going to be remembered for being the founder of J&P Cycles, but he's just known as a quiet man that sat back and loved the world of motorcycling, loved the history of motorcycling, loved all the people in motorcycling.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the people that come to the auction or buy the memorabilia or the bikes really just, they love motorcycling and they're going to display them. I mean, that's what this is all about.
John was at the hierarchy of vintage motorcycle collecting, and he was a cornerstone of the hobby. I think what we'll see, besides people coming here and buying artifacts, you're going to see a lot of John's old friends from around the country. It's going to be a celebration of life.